All right, welcome to another episode of Noble Thoughts, sponsored by the All Indiana Podcast Network. I know just how complicated and painful it can be when a child's best interests are debated behind closed doors. And that's why I'm deeply honored to speak with someone who's made it her mission to make sure children aren't just protected, but truly heard. Lindsay Scott is the president and CEO of Kids Voice Indiana, a nonprofit that gives children in the court system strong legal advocacy and compassionate support during some of the most vulnerable times of their lives. Whether it's through their work with guardians at LIDEM, custody cases, or even abuse prevention, Lindsay and her team are doing what many of us hope to do: protect the voices of children. Lindsay, we're so grateful that you're joining us today to share your noble thoughts. I want you to tell me about the mission of Kids Voice Indiana.
Sure. First, thank you so much for having me and asking me to share about our work. It is so important. And so our mission at Kids Voice is to amplify the voices of children and improve their individual outcomes, but also to inspire system-wide advances. So, that's a big undertaking. That's a big mission. And we do it in so many different ways. I think the one that people are most familiar with is that we use staff and volunteer advocates, or guardian ad litems, or CASAs, as some people may know, to really advocate for children that are involved in the court system. And we do that primarily in Marion County, which is about 5,000 children that we're doing that for every year. And so we also, though, provide supervised visitation, so parents and children can still see each other in a safe way. We do a lot of training for other advocates and lawyers and judges around the state about child advocacy. We also have parenting coordination, which is really a tool that parents can use to do better at co-parenting. And then we also do, educational advocacy for the kids that are in child welfare. We also have a team that focuses on older youth that are aging out of the foster care system. So it's really a multifaceted, multidisciplinary sort of set of services that we have really put together, just to make sure we're sort of able to meet the needs of those children and families in a lot of different ways. But it all comes back to making sure that that child's voice is heard in all of those different settings.
What are you finding when meeting with families? What are some common concerns?
Some common issues. Yeah. So, I think right now, especially, but I think this isn't different than any other time. It's just maybe exasperated. I think we're seeing a lot of families entering the court system because of poverty and other related issues. So housing instability, food instability. I think there is access to certain resources that some families just aren't getting. And maybe it's substance abuse treatment or mental health treatment. And so what ends up happening, sadly, is that the children in those families become very unsafe, and they may end up then, being abused or being prone to be neglected in some way. And so a lot of our families have co-occurring issues, right? So they have, lots of different things that they're dealing with at once. Domestic violence is another reason that brings a lot of families to us. And so it's really all of those things that I think, people are seeing in the news, right? People are probably even experiencing on their own. It's just, elevated to a certain point where the children have really become unsafe.
So your organization works closely with the legal system to protect kids. Talk to us how you're able to do that.
Yeah, so in Indiana, it is set up so that every child is supposed to get an advocate when they are in child welfare cases, meaning that they're in the court system because they are experiencing abuse and neglect. And so, we then, of course, make sure that every child in Marion County has that. And so we are appointed directly by the courts. And we work with Department of Child Services. We work with the court system. We have attorneys on staff that then support the legal side of things. And so we're also working with, attorneys for the parents or the families that may be involved as well. And so it really is sort of this collaborative effort where everybody really has to come together. And we're all there because of this court case, right? That's what really has brought us together.
Is it important for people in the community to speak up when they see that a child is being abused?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, that is a great reminder for everybody is that, it's hard. You don't want to be that person, but you, at the end of the day, should report because in Indiana, everybody is supposed to be a reporter of child abuse and neglect. And so when you see something, say something, right? That's kind of that word that everybody uses, but that is how a child gets services or gets protected, is by other people making sure that, that report is getting made so that people like Kids Voice can get involved.
Talk to us about the role of a guardian ad litem.
Yeah. It's a very important role. And so, guardian ad litem or CASA really can be used interchangeably. And what that really means is you are advocating for a child in litigation or in court, right? That is your specific role. And what we have found is that the people that serve in that role for the kids are usually the really one constant adult that they have to support them, to make sure that their voice is being heard, that they can really rely upon and trust, right? When they're going through this process, there's so many adults, right, involved. There's so many adult decisions being made. And so a guardian ad litem in CASA is that one person that is like waving their hands saying, hey, this is what we think is best for the kid. This is what the kids are saying. It's a really unique role in that way. It's actually, I think what is most powerful about that role is it is members of our community coming together and stepping up and saying, I am going to make sure this child is heard. I'm going to make sure their voice is amplified. That's powerful. When you are a member of the community stepping up to support the kids in your community that really need you. And I think that's one of my favorite parts about just that role and why it is so important.
I know that you work with schools, social workers, therapists, just working to build a strong community. Talk to us
Yeah.
about the importance of that and how you're able to bring everyone together.
Yeah. It is so, it's such a team effort, right? All the people you named, like we have to work together. Schools, right? Kids spend so much of their time there. And they're such, for many, many of the children, that's a safe place for them. It's a great place for us to meet them. It's a great place for us to communicate with the teachers. And, that's why we have a team of advocates that really focus on the educational needs of these kids because we know how valuable that is. Social workers, right? All of the service providers, the mental health providers, the medical industry, law enforcement, Department of Child Services, even the media, right? That's telling these stories. There is a way for every person in our community to get involved in this effort. Sometimes it's as easy as saying, hey, I saw an opportunity to volunteer. I can't do it right now, but maybe you should check it out, right? It's as simple as that. It's really sharing the story about, what these children are experiencing in our community, right? It's a community conversation, and all of those people have to be involved.
How can we volunteer? Let's get into it. What does that look like?
Yeah. So anybody can volunteer, right? I think that is the most important message is if you have a passion and want to help a child, come and meet with us. The very first step is so easy. You can go on our website, you can sign up for an info session. We hold all of them virtually, so you can do it from, we meet you wherever you're at. And that will give you a really great overview of our agency, but also how to be a volunteer and what it looks like. And so it's really helpful to get started. From there, then, of course, we do screen all of our volunteers. So we do an interview, we do a background check, and then we provide training for you as well to really make sure that you're prepared to go out and serve these children. And the great part about all of our volunteers is they're paired with a staff person, so you're never on your own. You always have somebody to come back to support you, to ask questions, all of that. And really, I think we try to, as an agency, make sure that we're engaging our volunteers in every way we can.
As we wrap up here, I'd love for you to share a noble thought. What's a belief that keeps you moving forward in your mission?
I love the name of your podcast, by the way. So, a noble thought is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And as I process this, when you invited me to come on, I think that it's the thought that it can get better, right? That we can make true change. And I think that's what keeps us going, right? We see one child being impacted, and then we see 20 kids, and then we see hundreds. And we know that all of these little steps that we're making are going to make big changes. And it's not a quick process, right? And so when we are working, sometimes it's like, oh, we get frustrated. But, we'll keep fighting that, noble fight, right? And just trying to do what part we can and keep talking about it. I think, you providing this opportunity in this podcast just to talk about some of these issues is such a key piece. Um, so yeah, just we can do it. We can do it together, right?
Incredible. Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your noble thought.
Thank you for having me.
We have with us Kiera Tucker, who is from Indianapolis. She actually works with the Department of Health, and she also works with the Girls Who Brunch Tour. I want to thank you for joining us, and yes, tell us a little bit more about that organization.
Girls Who Brunch is an organization based out of Atlanta. Dr. Nicola Mitchell is the founder of this organization. It's geared towards helping young ladies feel inspired and feeling seen and feeling heard and just finding their identities at a young age so they don't have to wait until they're an adult to kind of heal past certain things that they experienced as a child. So we start here while they're young, let them know who they are so no one can tell them who they are when they get older.
And you work with girls as young as 9 years old. What are some of the common themes that you're seeing some of them facing?
Some of the things I see them facing is low self-worth, not understanding how valuable they are, how cherished they are, how awesome they are, how smart and innovative, and just their capabilities that weren't necessarily cultivated at certain stages in their life. So we're here to help them see that for themselves.
Often we're talking about healing from trauma as adults, but children are dealing with trauma as well. Talk to us about some of the things that you've seen young girls facing here in Indianapolis.
Some of the things I've seen young ladies facing here in Indianapolis ranges from everything from depression to sexual abuse, emotional abuse, poverty, lack of education, and so many others that are kind of slipped under the radar because they're just not out in the open, so they're easy to miss.
What kind of impact does that have on the young girls?
an extreme impact because a lot of times they internalize it. So it's not seen, and it goes unnoticed. And that's the part that Girls Who Brunch brings out of them, that part of them that they hide. It helps them open up and release so they can finally get in alignment, and find this balance of who they are as young ladies.
How are you guys able to create that breakthrough for them?
I think it comes from us as women, being authentic and vulnerable with them. A lot of us have our own stories, that led us to this, portion of our journey. So we're able to meet them where they are through our own personal journeys and relate to them on that level. We're not coming from a therapeutic approach or, a professional approach. It's we're here. We see you. We understand you because we've been where you are.
Talk to us about the founder of the Girls Who Brunch Tour.
Dr. Nicola is amazing. She's originally from Jamaica, resides in Atlanta, but her story is very powerful, impactful, and she uses her story to help young ladies such as herself, and that's why we travel, around the country so we can not only pour into the young ladies where we are, we make impact wherever we go.
Mental health is a big part of that impact across the country.
Yes.
Talk about it.
Mental health is one of those things, and if I can be transparent, a lot of the Black community is something we don't discuss, but it's something that's very real, very impactful. A lot of times it's swept under the rug, and that's the piece that we internalize and that could change the trajectory of your life because you're not releasing. That's the important piece of talking about it, releasing it, learning from it so you can grow from it.
What are some of those programs that you guys are doing at the Girls Who Brunch Tour to have that impact that you're looking for?
We do a lot of workshops based on empowerment, self-worth, and identity. Those are some of the core values that are instilled in the young ladies. Not so much of the outward. We start internally first.
Have you seen some of those breakthroughs? Do you remember any of the stories? Any one particular one kind of stick out to you?
Yes, I remember a particular young lady when I first joined the program, very troubled youth here in the city of Indianapolis. But over time, she gravitated toward the women of Girls Who Brunch, who have poured into her over the years. And I'm proud to say that she enrolled in college this year. So we're just very proud of her, because it shows that our work hasn't been in vain, and that just having somebody there to listen to them, to pour into them, like, it's very impactful.
Here in Indianapolis, you guys have been doing this work for an entire decade. How much longer do you plan to be doing this work?
I will hope to do this as long as God sees fit because I actually enjoy what I do. So I'm open to endless possibilities of what comes with it, and branch over into new territories as well, because not only are our young ladies suffering, our young men are too. And that's a population that is easily overlooked. I think that because a lot of times their trauma comes out as anger instead of sadness, or because they can't express themselves verbally and say, hey, I'm sad, hey, I'm feeling this way, this is what I need. They don't know how to put it into words. So it comes out as anger, it comes out as rebellion. So that's something that should be a red flag for many of us as adults, as caregivers, as caretakers. When those behaviors start to shift like that, just sit them down for a second and say, hey, what's going on? It's not that they want to be disobedient. It's not that they just want to cause you to have a bad day. They're hurting. So just sit down and listen.
Anything else you can think of that folks at home can do to help our youth?
Absolutely. We're constantly seeking volunteers, not just in Indy, all over when we tour to the different states. We're looking for volunteers and vendors as well, sponsorships again.
For the Girls Who Brunch Tour. So what we'll do is we'll make sure that we get that information in our show notes, so that whether you're a Hoosier and you want to help out here in Indiana or even across the country, we'll get that information out to them. Kiara, I want to thank you for joining us and for sharing your noble thoughts. We appreciate you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me.